All right, good morning, everybody. Look at this. We have a full room today. This is great. Come on in, grab your coffee, your drink, snacks, get seated. We've got some fun stuff to get to this morning. All right, so this has been a year in the making, and I'm so excited to have all of you here. We have some amazing speakers and some great topics that we're going to dive into today. But before we do, did anybody catch the view of the harbor and the ocean as they were coming in this morning? You guys get that? Okay, cool. So imagine seeing that for the very first time as a kid, okay? That is where my story begins, right here at the Port of LA, right here in the harbor. I was a little kid going to elementary school, and I lived in Los Angeles, about an hour away from the ocean, and a school oceanography field trip right out of the Port of LA introduced me to the ocean. Okay, that was more than 40 years ago, and now we're back here. So this is a little bit of homecoming and a little bit of full circle for me. And this is the second annual Rising Tide Summit. So we were just down the street here last year. We're back in this location. We'll be here for a few years. But the reason why we are here is that we want to protect our oceans, and we are wanting to find some solutions as well. So the people that are in this room are the ones who are going to help us with this discussion. We have businesses and we have nonprofits. And you know what? We need everybody to be involved if we're going to find solutions. It's not one organization or one business. There's no shiny unicorn showing up to clean up our oceans, okay? It's going to take all of us working hand in hand, but more importantly, it's going to take businesses. Because if we look at what's going on with our oceans, businesses are the ones that are causing some of these problems. Not deliberately, it's just the way our system works. But there are also businesses who want to help solve these problems, so let's embrace them. The other thing I want to say is that there's 23,000 nonprofits working in ocean conservation here in the United States. Okay, that's a lot of nonprofits doing amazing work, but we cannot leave it up to them just to help solve these problems. Businesses are going to help. And at times, we might also need government to step in and help us out too, but hopefully that is the last resort. I think between nonprofits and businesses, we can address these issues and start moving the needle to protect our oceans. So we have a full day ahead of us, and I want to get things started with our first panel here. This is a really exciting panel. This organization has been around just for a little over a year and was started by a couple of nonprofits to bring businesses together. It's called the Business Alliance for Protecting the Pacific Coast. And that is a mouthful, so you'll probably hear some of the folks refer to it as BayPak. But this alliance works because there are nonprofits and businesses, more than 2,400 businesses working to protect the Pacific Coast from offshore oil drilling. This is where collaboration happens, and I think this is a new model that is evolving to bring more people into the conversation. So our moderator for this panel is Nancy Hastings, and Nancy, I've known her for a long time. She's been on the ground working for Surfrider Foundation, and now she's with Oceana, and she has been leading the charge on this alliance and with all the nonprofits and the business leaders. So please help me welcome Nancy Hastings. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Hastings?
Downs.
Downs, okay.
That's okay.
Sorry, reverse that.
I'm just changing my name, so everybody's totally confused about who I am. It's an honor to be here today. Thank you so much to Vibe for bringing together ocean conservation nonprofits and businesses. I've been involved with Surfrider Foundation and now Oceana, a total about 25 years. And I actually wanted to bring the panelists up right away. So if I can please have Bjorkman from the ranch, Mike Matey from Reef, and Zach Weisberg from the Inertia. I'd like to invite the panelists and then give you the 30,000-foot view of why we're up here tonight, or this morning. So Kurt Bjorkman is the general manager of The Ranch. The Ranch is the coolest, most authentic resort in Laguna Beach. It's high-end and super cool. Over the last 30 years, Kurt has become a recognized leader in luxury and lifestyle hotel operations. He's gained experience with companies such as Norwegian Cruise Lines, the Buena Vista Hospitality Group, Desert Inn Las Vegas, Mirage Corporation, Regent International, Joie de Vivre. It goes on and on. Those are just to name a few. Kurt has a pretty unique perspective on today's hotel business and the future of the travel industry. We have Mike Matey from Reef. Mike is the VP of Marketing with a long career in marketing that spans across Surfline, Quicksilver, RVCA. He has a global marketing experience in footwear, apparel, consumer technology, music, entertainment, and media services, with specific expertise in purpose-led brand strategy, digital marketing, and e-commerce. And Zach, a lot of you guys are familiar with Zach from the Inertia. It's the definitive voice of surf and outdoors. He's a former editor of Surfer magazine. His work has been featured in the New York Times, Esquire, Forbes, Surfer's Journal, Oprah magazine, and many other publications. Please welcome the panel. So I want to give you sort of the 30,000-foot view and set the stage, so to speak. It's August of 2017, and I had just been hired by Oceana. And I'm sitting in the conference room at Surfrider Foundation headquarters with about 15 other nonprofits, and I'm learning about the federal administration's plan to expand offshore oil drilling. And it's not just in Southern California. The government looked to expand drilling in the Atlantic, the Gulf, the Pacific, and the Arctic, and every inch of federal waters was on the table. That's even marine sanctuaries, marine protected areas, everything. But in California, why more drilling in California? The two answers were energy independence and jobs. So think about that again. California, energy independence, and jobs. But California has not issued a new drilling lease in state waters since 1969. A lot of people don't know that. That's 50 years ago. And not in federal waters off of California since 1984, right? So with an economy that supports over 600,000 jobs and brings in $42.3 billion in gross domestic product, it doesn't seem to me that the California coastline needs more drilling. We've survived without it for 30 years. So who's best poised for that message to be sent to DC? Business Alliance. So at that point in August 2017, this business alliance did not exist. And today we're at 2,400 businesses on the West Coast that are standing up to oppose new offshore oil and gas. So that's awesome. Thank you. So I want to dive in now. Kurt, the Ranch was one of the earlier adopters of joining the Business Alliance. So I'd love you to talk to the audience a little bit about the Business Alliance and also why this unique resort would get involved in such a thing.
Sure. Well, it's a small community, South Orange County. A lot of you are familiar. So it was no surprise when I got a call to be introduced to the group starting BayPak at Surfrider headquarters. And I was there sitting and talking about, trying to get a couple hundred members to sign up. And wow, this seems like a high road. Yeah. And then hearing the amazing success of the organization on the East Coast and the tens of thousands of businesses and organizations and governments that joined to prevent offshore oil drilling off of, Sea Island in Georgia. I mean, so it was a no-brainer to sit there, and I was a little bit humbled, as I always am, to be in a room like this full of people who are, making this all happen. My resort is in Laguna Beach, South Laguna Beach, and it's in a canyon. We're about 87 acres. It's a beautiful box canyon. It's a very spiritual place. My opinion. So it's easy to look around at a property like that and go, wow, we got to do the right thing by this property. And we always have, especially the new renovation that we did in 2013, a painful 2.5-year renovation. But we really looked at ways, and I use the word low-hanging fruit, that we could do this simply and easily. And so we embraced trying to be as environmentally friendly as we could while still providing exceptional services for our guests. We became part of National Geographic's Unique Lodges of the World, which is a very proud moment for us and very difficult to do. And that was a big part of us. We do a lot of recycling. We crush glass into sand on property and use it so no glass goes outside. We're going to start turning paper cups into notepads in our meeting rooms. Very excited about that possibility. But we have a lot of fun doing this. It's not complicated, but supporting BayPak and being part of that group is, and I'm preaching to the choir here, but holy cow, from a tourism standpoint, and especially an operator who works on the coastal zone, who relies on a beautiful beach. Part of our property has a beach cafe at Aliso County Beach, right on the sand. I cannot imagine having to look out and see not only what a rig looks like, and I'm familiar with that from the Gulf Coast, but the potential of horrible things happening. And then having to explain that to our guests, and just another diminished experience. So purely selfish business standpoint, I don't want rigs out there. It's going to prevent people from traveling and supporting what is one of the largest industries in the state of California. One of the largest employers in the state of California is the tourism and hospitality industry. So coming in and joining BayPak was kind of a no-brainer and an easy thing to do. It was not complicated.
And the hotel industry is not just your hotel, like the layers
Right.
of additional industries that you're supporting, the wedding industry, the travel industry.
Yeah.
People aren't going to come to the ranch.
Yeah, if you look at the statistics from travel anywhere in the country, but in California, it's so important that a hotel like mine, which is only 97 rooms, employs 250 people, but we support thousands and thousands of other people and businesses, from airlines that come into town to local businesses where we source a lot of our products, local fishermen out of Dana Point Harbor and the Dory Fleet in Newport Beach, craftsmen, photographers for weddings, DJs for weddings, you name it, it goes on. Thousands of people kind of our surrounding organization to support it. So it's not just us as a hotel saying we don't want a bad view. We want our industry to be thriving and flourishing. It employs a lot of people in fantastic, amazing, highly touchable, people-facing businesses, which I think gives us not only, it's a heartfelt business. You have to be really, I call it kind of twisted to be in this business and like it over 5 years, but it's really important for a lot of people, and we have a big opportunity to deliver messages to tens of thousands of people just in my business alone every year on easy to do environmental items like no plastic bottles. That was simple to do and a no-brainer for us.
And when you look at disasters like the Gulf spill, and what that did exponentially to the entire tourism industry, the fishing industry.
Yeah, it killed it. The Horizon, was a horrible disaster, but that killed, as you know the story better than I do most likely, but it killed the tourism industry for a long time, and it's going to have reverberations for decades longer. Businesses, family-run businesses, mom-and-pop hotels and tourism businesses, fishing expeditions, kayaking rental companies all went out of business. They're gone. They're never going to come back. They can't recover from that kind of tragedy. And California is not going to be any different with a disaster like that.
And do you see your clientele having an expectation of sort of social responsibility and corporate responsibility?
Yeah, absolutely. 10 years ago, it was kind of like, let's educate our guests on what sustainable tourism means. Nowadays, our guests, especially coming to a hotel like ours, a resort, they're already assuming we're doing the right thing. And they become highly offended when they find out that an organization's not doing the right thing. So if they come to my property and they find out that I'm not recycling, or I'm not composting, or I'm not trying to source locally, that just gets you on the playing field. That's like, you're on the... You should be doing more than that. That's the assumption. They assume, for a large part, that your local McDonald's is doing that. That's just what people think is supposed to be happening already. So if you're not doing that, you're just not, you shouldn't even be playing in the game.
That's awesome. And that makes me think about what Reef is now partnering with Surfrider Foundation and also part of SEMA, which is the Surfing Industry Manufacturing Association. And SEMA was one of our founding members that joined the Business Alliance. So Mike, maybe you can talk about social responsibility and Reef and how SEMA joined the Business Alliance as well.
Yeah, sure. So I'll just start with a little context on Reef for those of you in the room that aren't familiar with the brand. We make flip-flops, basically, and we're a purpose-led organization. We've been around for 35 years, and our purpose is to unite the world around the fun, freedom, and spirit of the beach. So it's very emotional, and when you think about the world today, it's filled with complications, stress, pollution, wars, over-technology, school shootings. I mean, it's pretty gnarly out there, and people need to free themselves from that from time to time to balance themselves. And we believe there's no better place in the world than the beach and in the ocean to feel free. We've felt that since the brand was incepted. People chase freedom in all kinds of different ways, motorcycles through the desert, skydiving, whatever it is. But in marketing, we do a ton of research, and we've done a lot of research just across the world. And when we ask people, tell us a place where you feel the most free or want to be, 80% say the beach. 1% say floating free in the Milky Way. But most people, we love the beach. I'm still looking for that one person who wants to float in the Milky Way. But the point is this freedom idea, and we think of Reef as a sandal company. When you put on a pair of sandals, your blood pressure goes down instantly. It connects you to a beach state of mind. And when you think about products for feeling free and going to the beach, sandals are right at the top of the list. So why I'm saying all this is our whole brand is built on this story of beaching freely and feeling free. And when the beaches are dirty and polluted, you can't beach freely. And if people aren't going to the beach, they're not buying sandals, we don't have a business. So that's why we care, and that's why we're here. And as that relates to how we work with SEMA and Surfrider, so we're part of the Surf Industry Manufacturer Association. We've been a member for a long time. And through that, we're part of the Business Alliance against the offshore oil drilling. And we've been a partner with Surfrider for many years, but in the last 2 years, we stepped up our game because we felt we had a responsibility to. We're 65 people in San Diego. That's the size of our company, and we don't have as many boots on the ground, but we care about the beach. And Surfrider, we've been a coastal defender with them, and 2 years ago we said, hey, we got to step up our game. So we put more financial resources into the organization because they're on the front lines. Mm-hmm. They have an army on every coast. They're out there fighting every day. So we formed what's called the Better Beach Alliance. And it started out really about single-use plastics and the plastic pollution problem. So we started there, and then over the last I'd say year or so, things have really dialed up on this offshore oil drilling. So that's become part of the initiative as well. So we love Surfrider. They've been around for, I think, actually they started in 1984, same year as Reef, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's right.
But we love what they do, and we are trying to do better about our own environmental footprint. A lot of our products are still made from petroleum. We know that. We are trying to get better. We're looking at other materials, but we're trying to be fully transparent. And the first step is just getting taking care of the problems that exist today. And when we think about offshore oil drilling, it just feels like an unnecessary risk that we don't need.
And do you find that there's this balance between what you want to do as a company and the nonprofits are able to provide you with the information on the politics and the timing and the opportunities for engagement?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, we look to Surfrider to educate us on policy, what's happening. They're in the mix from every level, from politics to local government, national. I went to Washington, D.C. a year ago, and hey, it's good to see you. And we, part of the Ocean Recreation Hill Day, where they helped me understand what the issues were and how to talk to our congressional representatives on why they should be enacting policy to save our beaches and oceans. So it's fascinating, but they're constantly providing us with information on how we can do better as a brand. So they're really strategic advisors to us.
That's great.
Yeah.
And do you, like with Kurt and his clientele, expecting a certain level of responsibility? Is Reef
Yes.
seeing that in your customers and clients as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And in this day, it's really accelerated. Consumers are aligning with brands with the same shared values as them, and they expect brands to make a stand. You can't really sit on the sidelines anymore. You have to take a side, whatever it is, and go for it. So, and it's really accelerated with social media, and it's a daily conversation. Everybody has a platform now to speak and hold brands accountable. So we pay attention to that. And like I said, transparency is the best policy. It's when you try to hide from the facts, or that's when you really get in trouble. But I love that our consumers can hold us accountable and we can engage with them on a daily basis. But yes, there's all kinds of industry research that shows that consumers are voting with their wallets on brands that take a stand for something and align with their personal values.
That's awesome. And talking about platforms and communicating to your members, this is a great transition to the Inertia, which is a great communications tool and medium. And Zach, you're going to, I think, be excellent in talking about the engagement points. I know when people hear about the Business Alliance, the biggest concern I get from people that are just hearing about it is, oh God, what are you asking us to do? I know businesses in this day and age are so busy and so slammed that people don't want that one more thing. Is it going to be this heavy lift? Am I going to get 20 million emails from environmental groups telling us to go to rallies and protests? So Zach, we recently had you come speak at a BayPak event just last month. So why don't you talk about opportunities for engagement and a little bit about that experience?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think it can be really daunting for any business to understand what the entry point is to have a meaningful participation in the environmental conversation. And, you know, I guess for those who are not aware of what the Inertia is, you know, we report daily on everything that's interesting in surf and outdoors. So our entire business is predicated upon clean oceans, clean outdoors. And so in that sense, we just have an obligation to participate meaningfully beyond just communicating. And so when it comes to actually, you know, I think when Nancy got in touch about participating, I mean, it was essentially a no-brainer. Yes, so how can we be of service? And but then, yeah, what does that mean? You know, so the first step in participating, at least in BayPak, was it's, you know, you go to their website, you sign up. And then your business is now officially involved alongside a lot of amazing other businesses that, you know, if you didn't have some formal association with them, now you instantly do. So in that sense, that's an amazing benefit. And then you literally could leave it there if you don't know where to go from there. And just your participation is greatly valued because now you're among a list of a lot of different businesses and leaders that are championing ending offshore oil drilling. But you know, the example that Nancy pointed out, there's a mixer at the Patagonia store in Santa Monica a month or so ago, and essentially I just, you know, provided some insight into what we do, how we can participate, and, you know, beyond kind of sharing the communications, it again kind of plugs you into a great network. I mean, obviously we're super well aware of Reef and Surfrider and a lot of other great organizations that we interact with on a regular basis, but it really kind of broadened that pool of like-minded organizations and people that we're in touch with. So one of the groups that was there was a bank and financial services group called Aspiration, who they ensure that kind of all your investments go towards positive, socially responsible causes, as opposed to maybe a traditional bank that may be funding coal power or something you don't even know that they're doing something nefarious with your cash that is sitting in a bank. And that was like a really great interaction. We may end up doing some work with them, and that probably never would have happened had we not participated at that event. And they're like, oh yeah, we saw you, that we, you know, and that was a great kind of connection.
Yeah, so it definitely provided some like network opportunities for the people who had never heard of BayPak. They showed up at this mixer in Patagonia, and now they're networking with other businesses that have shared values. Zach was up on the stage with a staff member from Senator Ben Allen's office, so now businesses are starting to build relationships with their local, state, and federally elected officials. I know, I know the ranch, or was it Mark Christie from Hobie, authored one of the letters that ended up going out to the entire BayPak membership.
Absolutely. So leveraging your network.
Right, so now the ranch and Hobie is getting exposure to the entire 2,400 businesses. I think Sean Smith from SEMA actually authored one of the letters that went out to the entire membership. The last letter that went out by VIPE went out to the entire membership, and he's alerting the businesses that the next proposed plan for oil drilling will be coming in a matter of weeks. So we're expecting that federal proposed plan, that's the second draft, to come out any week now. We don't know when. And once that's released, there'll be a 90-day comment period. And my goal is to see BayPak grow from 2,400. Maybe we can get it to 3,000. So there's that 90-day comment period. That gives us 3 months. So we only have about 600 more businesses to go. We are constantly reaching out to chambers of commerce, to restaurant associations. We have the Pacific Coast Federation of Fishing Alliances, and that represents 750 fishermen on the West Coast that also belong to the Business Alliance. Surfrider Foundation up in Oregon and Washington has been incredibly helpful in recruiting businesses up in the Pacific Northwest. So, as Zach said, just joining is one level. We had the bathing suit company that actually spoke last year at the Rising Tide Summit was Jeu de Vague, and they posted on social media. I think we have a company in San Diego called SandCloud that messages out to over 1 million of their customers and clients, all the way up to the really big news that we have. Are we ready? So VIPE has been invited to speak on April 2nd in Washington, D.C. on behalf of the Business Alliance in front of the House Natural Resources Committee meeting. And so that would be the absolute, like, from joining to literally speaking in front of the House Natural Resources Committee meeting. So the layers of participation is really up to each individual business, what you have the resources, time, and capacity to do. Was there anything else that you guys wanted to share about the Business Alliance?
Well, I actually had a question. I feel like I remember that you had mentioned at the there's a comparable organization representing the Atlantic. No?
Yes.
And what was their representation? I feel like it was really high.
So this is kind of, you're right. So
and to me, that's like light a fire under our butt.
This is what lit the fire on the West Coast to create the Business Alliance for Protecting the Pacific Coast, was when I was sitting in that meeting in August of 2017, someone said, oh yeah, when Obama tried to open up the Atlantic for drilling, businesses started forming the Business Alliance for Protecting the Atlantic Coast, which they also call BayPak. And to this day, they are now 41,000 businesses and 500,000 fishing families on the East Coast, so we need to catch up. I was actually shocked that ours didn't exist and that we need to hurry up and recruit. And one of the more successful tactics was bringing on chambers of commerce. So if there's anyone in this room that has influential connections with chambers, we've been slow to recruit chambers on the West Coast, which is pretty shocking. So many cities, I think we have over 90 cities on the West Coast that have passed municipal resolutions saying no thank you to this federal plan. And every time you bring on a chamber, like the Malibu Chamber has 400 businesses, you're growing very rapidly. So I think we'd love to, I want to thank the panelists, so please if you could give them a hand. And I think we have time to answer some questions.
It's not exactly a question, but I just think with the tremendous power of the people who are in this room right now, it would be a great thing to maybe just brainstorm how you could open up and expand the alliance. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting here thinking about it and wondering if you've got even one sentence that just makes the connection to plastic and plastic pollution. If you can do that in discussing this, then we can share it with our entire coalition, Plastic Pollution Coalition. We would be happy to do that, but I would imagine there are other people who are connected to networks in the room.
I think if each person in the room tells folks about the Business Alliance, the website, by the way, is defendthepacific.org. So it's super easy, and there are cards on both tables. And you're right, I mean, our dependence on plastics is from virgin plastic, which is from oil drilling. So I'd love to hear your ideas, either now or...
Oh, no, I think it's just a simple idea. You just add, if it's not already in what you guys are talking about in your messaging, you just add one extra sentence to it that makes that connection. You can tap into that whole network. Yeah.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Sure.
Is there any other questions about the proposal for oil drilling or about the business alliance or commentary in the back there?
I guess I was just curious, you mentioned kind of your customers holding you accountable. What steps do you take as a business in educating your customers that might not be aware of the issue and what you're doing?
Yeah, so the big mouthpiece is through the Surfrider Better Beach Alliance. So when we talk about education, so giving them basic understanding of the plastic pollution problem and how they can minimize that. So we find that going through the platform of the Surfrider Better Beach Alliance works for us because it also gives people an easy access point to get involved, because there's chapters on every coast and you can volunteer, and it's probably the best step to take to be educated and actually do something about it, because there's so many plug-in points. So that's how we try to help educate our consumers, and we celebrate wins. So we set out goals. So the Better Beach Alliance this year, our goal is to clean up over 2,000 beaches, get 300,000 pounds of plastic off the beach, and activate 50,000 members. So we have a scorecard. And we've also connected it to Surfrider Europe as well. So we're starting to make this more of a global initiative, because we are a global brand, and this is a global issue. But we basically encourage people to help us hit our goal. So we show them every quarter how we're tracking against that goal. We have a whole section on our website that we drive people to through our social media. And Surfrider has a Better Beach Alliance section of their website, and their chapters are constantly promoting it. So that's step one. And then they do hold us accountable. So we start with everything that's in our control. So like in our office, we don't have single-use plastics. We are looking for more sustainable. Everybody in the footwear industry is battling this. Most products are made out of foams, and things in my shoes are made out of petroleum-based products. So we're looking for better solutions to that. That's the biggest challenge for us as a brand. And the other thing, too, I just want to point out that I forgot to mention, and I'd be remiss if I didn't, but being part of SEMA, the Surf Industry Manufacturers Association, there's over 100 brands that are members of that, all from surf and beach, lifestyle. We're just one of many, and there's, the collective of that is, multi-billion-dollar business, and every brand is doing their part. Everybody holds themselves accountable, so it's not just Reef out there. There's a lot of brands doing amazing things, so it's the power of that whole industry of a kind of a shared goal and like-minded thoughts. And every brand, most brands support Surfrider as well, so it's a great, powerful network that we all work together on and try to educate. And every brand's trying to do better about reducing their plastic use.
Thank you.
Did that help? Did that answer your question? I feel like I'm totally rambling. I'm getting a little half, maybe. What else? Drill in me a little bit more if you like.
I'm curious your perspective too.
So for us, it's about story. The travel experience, as you know, you want to have a story that kind of goes along with their stay and their experience, whether it's just a restaurant experience or an overnight experience or getting out on a golf course. And if you walk up, for instance, to a little snack shop and there's no plastic bottles, and then that person's used to that crunchy plastic bottle to walk around on the golf course with, it instantly, if they're not already, a lot of our South Laguna people are already into, the whole, they're on our side, it's awesome. But for somebody who's not, and they're like, oh, why, can I get a plastic bottle? And it encourages a conversation. And then our team is trained on how to answer that conversation. In our guest rooms, we use not only non-plastic bottles for water, we use non-California water. So, thank goodness we're out of the drought for now anyway, but we're not pulling water out of the ground in California and not shipping it from any other country. It's coming from the United States. But it's like, oh, well, why isn't a plastic bottle in my room? I'm used to having that Fiji or Evian bottle in my room or that little Nestle bottle for $15. And, so so that tells a story. And then what do we do with the glass? By the way, this glass, there's a little note card next to the glass bottles that says that this bottle's going to get crushed on property and used in our golf bunkers. It's we're not going to put it in the waste bin because only, most people think all glass is recycled. Only 40% really ever gets recycled, if that amount. And it's a tremendous process to do that. So for us to be able to reuse it on property is an amazing story. Straws, that's an easy one because everyone, for a while, now everyone who comes into our restaurants pretty used to not having a straw or plastic straw. And but that encourages, again, a conversation. It's about story. It's like, oh, can I get a straw? You can, and then you bring that paper straw, or, we use paper straws right now. We're looking also at straws, but we encourage no straws. But it's like, well, why can't I get a plastic straw instead of this straw that's going to disintegrate in 10 minutes? Like, well, I sell more drinks because you have to drink faster. But so it's win-win, right? But it's storytelling. It's all about storytelling instead of, and for us, we don't want to shove messages down our we want people to feel good about what they're doing. And so, being a part of this journey with us, you're doing something good for the environment. You're helping us do it, and you're part of it. So it kind of...
Yeah. I'd like to chime in, too. The bathing suit company took it another level. They found out that in Orange County, in Huntington Beach, last year's congressional representative was by far one of the most supportive of oil drilling. So she left Malibu, messaged her bathing suit customers, got a bunch of good-looking women in her sexy bathing suits to have a rally on the beach. We marched down Pacific Coast Highway to the Huntington Beach Pier. So this was on Facebook Live. She posted pictures of the rally on her social media. She got media messaging in the Malibu Times and the Orange County Register. So that's how she got the message out to her members, her supporters, to the general public. She got points with her clients that loved that she was doing that, but she was also educating people about the problem of oil drilling and why nobody wants to be in a sexy bikini on the beach when it's covered with oil. So it was like a win-win across the board. So I have this. Did you still have a question? And then the gentleman in the hat, and then Dan.
So we're leading up to the mapping that's coming out for the oil. Does this group have a strategy as to the fork in the road going forward? If A then B. So if California is opened up or parts of California are opened up, what's the strategy behind the organization going forward with messaging? And then to her point, defend the Pacific it's such an easy thing that rolls off the tongue, and you understand that. So if California or if the whole West Coast comes off, is there any plans to continue this into plastic pollution or other issues?
So the question is, for the Business Alliance, where are we now and where do we go, depending on if the Pacific is on the table or off the table for offshore oil drilling? So I know initially this group was formed laser focused to oppose the federal drilling plan. We didn't want to cloud or gray the message so that we would lose potential businesses that weren't wanting to jump on 50 different issues. So if the Pacific is not in the plan, the Business Alliance collectively agreed that we're going to support any other coast that's being targeted so that we would then stand alongside our brothers on the Atlantic coast and sisters, the Gulf and Arctic, and continue the message that any oil spill has a trickle effect across the entire nation, and that we do not want drilling in any, and this is new drilling, in any of our federal waters. We don't need to expand that. We haven't really landed on what happens after that. But there are business alliances within this business alliance. So Natural Resource Defense Council has E2, that's called Environmental Entrepreneurs. And they represent businesses on the West and East Coast that are taking a stance on NRDC's issues. California Coastkeeper has the Blue Business Council, which focuses on water quality issues. They're also part of the Business Alliance. So businesses can either choose to stay on BayPak or transition onto other business alliances as they see fit and work on issues that matter to them. But I think it's a great on-ramp for at least getting into an alliance that's working on an environmental issue that's about protecting the coastline. Businesses can get a feel for what it's like, and if they're not sure how to engage, there's a whole advisory team of nonprofits that are guiding these businesses on messaging and how to take action. So I think it's a great step into environmental advocacy for these businesses. 2 more questions back here.
You had provided some anecdotal evidence on what this could do to your business. You mentioned the DJs and et cetera. Has this organization created any sort of economic studies that could show the negative economic impact that would affect the various industries that rely on the ocean so that fight dollars with dollars rather than just
I have a handout in a bag at my chair, so I'll put those out on the table. Oceana has done economic studies not only state by state, but nationwide. So I hand those out, and there's a website on the Oceana website. If you look up Oceana and clean coast economy, if you Google search just that, you'll see some economic figures. NRDC has also done some nationwide economic studies on offshore oil drilling and what that financial impact would be. So yes. Dan?
I realize time's short here, but this is for Kurt, and you said you have a lot of vendors you work with in the community. So what you do has a big ripple effect, generally Orange County. When you find a vendor that doesn't align with your story that you tell it to your customers and what your ethos is as a company, do you work with that vendor to change how they do business, or is it better for you, have you found, to go just to a completely new vendor and drop them? How do you attack that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's complicated and difficult when you're dealing with vendors who come from various parts of the country and distributors. Sometimes you never even meet your vendor, you just meet your distributor. But yeah, we do talk to all of our vendors. We reduced our reliance on, say, wholesale fish companies and go direct to local fishermen because that was a challenge in how not only where is the fish being caught, but are they delivering it in plastic, freeze, packs or whatever. Now we get live fresh fish in the back of a pickup truck. And not every business can do that, and we struggle with that sometimes. If I have a 400-person event, like a 600-person event like the SEMA Waterman's Ball, and we're going to do a sustainable seafood, it's a challenge. But we work on that, and the fishing industry is one of those areas. Our vendors as well with using. We get hit up a lot about beverages and why we're not selling Coke bottles and Sprite bottles. And those are easy conversations, and that message is strong. And for a little business like ours to stand up to big people, we really look to the industry as a whole, hotel industry as a whole, to help support us in that. Because a little we're kind of a mom and pop shop in Laguna Beach, standing up and doing things that like a big Hilton is not doing. Is kind of daunting, but I'm me, I don't care. So we'll just do our best to make it happen. But that's important. And something I'll bring out this brings one last thing real quick. I have talked to Vipe about this. I think I've talked to you about this. For those of you who can, on the vendor side, and talking with these great paper cups in the back, the Monterey Bay Aquarium has a fish watch program. I can plug in a fish that I want to buy and where it's being purchased, where it's fished, and it can tell me in a database whether it's good now, at this moment, if I should buy it or not. We need that for paper products. For me, I love this, and I'm surrounded by incredible people who know a lot. But if I'm the general manager of a Hilton Garden Inn and I have the opportunity to buy something that I think is good, but in reality, there's a lot of products that are environmentally friendly that are not at all, as you know. It would be really powerful to have a database that I can go to and type in, this brand of cup, and it gives me a score. Buy it, don't buy it, based on the criteria of eliminating single-use plastics. Does this qualify? So I think a lot of businesses, for instance, in Santa Monica would love that because they're struggling with what does that mean? And I think every town, as we adopt, getting rid of plastics, that means. And then one other thing, and I told Nancy I would go on and on and on. I think it would be fun for BayPak to do a virtual reality like beach cam, BayPak beach cam, and have 4 or 5 beach cams set up up and down the coast of California. But when you go to that beach cam, about a mile offshore is a virtual reality oil rig on fire. Just put it out there. So somebody in Ohio's go, oh, cool, beach camp. Oh my God, there's a fire. I mean, that might be a powerful way to start a conversation. Maybe a little too guerrilla marketing, but
So what's great is the environmental groups that are involved in the Business Alliance have representation throughout the nation, whether it's Oceana or Surfrider or NRDC or Center for Biological Diversity, Sierra Club, Greenpeace, Environment California. The list of nonprofits is just about 15 long, and they all are located throughout various regions of the coastline. So you don't have to call Washington, D.C. to figure out how to get involved. You can call your local nonprofit that's working on environmental issues and ask them, how do we as a business get plugged in, and use them as a source of information on how to get your business informed on what are the critical issues affecting your coast and how can you plug in. There's so many different ways, and you might be good at communications. You might have a product that you could put a message tag on. You might have a hotel where you can educate your customers. So I think the Business Alliance is a really awesome on-ramp for businesses to just enter engaging in a cause. And I think for me personally, it's been an incredible experience working across 3 states, so from Washington, Oregon, and California, with 15 different nonprofits and 2,400 businesses. We are really creating a really strong voice against offshore oil. And I think with that, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much, everyone.
Good job.